I used to love Neapolitan ice cream as a kid, i.e. I would love eating all the chocolate out of there and leaving the strawberry and vanilla for the rest of my angry family. But I do love this Neapolitan cake recipe which I made, which has strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla layers on the inside, and strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla buttercream all over. It's really delicious, it's actually easy to make, and I think it's pretty cute. Let's get started. I just want to tell you, it's a little bit more complicated than a normal cake because there are 3 flavors, but I'm kind of cheating it. I'm making a basic batter, and then we're going to divide it into 3 separate batches, 1 strawberry, 1 vanilla, and 1 chocolate. So we're minimizing the work as much as possible while still maintaining the integrity of a Neapolitan cake with all those separate flavors. To get started, we're going to be sifting 1 2/3 cups of all-purpose flour and then the rest of the dry ingredients. Half a teaspoon of kosher salt, a heaping 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, a heaping teaspoon of baking powder, 1 cup of granulated sugar. All right, let's just sift away. Give it a quick whisk. Now for the wet ingredients, we're going to be mixing in half a cup of milk, whole of course, half a cup of sour cream, and if you don't have sour cream, go ahead and use whole milk yogurt. Now I'm adding in 3/4 of a cup of partially melted butter. It could be totally melted if you want to. If you put ice cold things into a cake pan, it's not going to be baking evenly. Just telling you ahead of time. Don't worry if you see a little curdling, that's fine. I'm using egg whites for this recipe. If you watch my videos, you know I rarely use egg yolks unless it's like a chocolate cake, just because of the color. It's hard to get a nice white cake with those yolks, even though they're delicious. You can save them for custards or curds, or add them to your morning omelet. Okay, that yolk broke. Don't worry about it. It's not a meringue. You can get a little bit of yolk in there. Now, the last time I made this recipe, I didn't weigh anything out and it worked out fine, but I wanted to be more exact for you. So what I'm doing is weighing all of my bowls, then I can zero them out and I still know what the bowl weighs, so I know exactly how much is inside of it. Let's zero it out, add it back in. So I have exactly 460 grams of dry mixture in this bowl. Divided by 3 is about 153 grams. So let's scoop it out until we get to 153. Repeat the process for the wet mixture now. Add in all of that wet mixture because we're not wasting anything for this cake. That's 518 grams, so divided by 3 is about 172. Now we're going to take this back, zero it out again, and just pour in 172 grams. Okay, wasn't that fun? Put my trusty scale aside. So now I have 3 equal wet and dry mixtures. And here's the lay of the land. For the chocolate one, I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of a nice cocoa powder into the dry mixture. And we can give that a quick whisk. A lot of lumps in there, so I should have sifted it. I'll just make sure to sift the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients, so those lumps will disappear. For my vanilla layer, I'm going to add in a little bit less than a tablespoon, maybe like 2 teaspoons of a nice vanilla extract into the wet mixture. I warmed up some strawberry preserves just to loosen them up. Take about a tablespoon or so, and you're just going to run it through a sieve so that you don't have too many seeds inside and no big strawberry lumps. If you wanted to, you could also feel free to make a fresh strawberry reduction, which I've done. I actually really like that, but I'm very short on time nowadays, so this will work just fine and people will love it, trust me. I love this natural color. However, let me tell you, it's not going to stay so nice and blushy, so we're gonna add in like a half drop of soft pink food coloring. You could also add in straight up pink, but then you're gonna add even less in. That little bit is gonna be so bright, just watch. If you're wondering why I'm doing this, I'm trying to not mix the batter together until it's totally ready. So we're gonna prep the pans first before we mix the wet and the dry. I don't wanna activate the leavening agents too far in advance. before it goes into the oven. I've learned this the hard way. To prep my pans, as usual, I'm going to be buttering and flouring. For 2 of the pans, I'm adding some flour, kicking it around just to make sure there's a light dusting that's adhering to the butter. Tap the excess out into the second pan. For the chocolate layer, I'm adding some cocoa powder, which will also help me, get a nice release, but it won't color the outside of the cake white. Doesn't really make a big difference, but why not? The last step before combining the batter and adding it in is to add your cake strips onto the pans. Click up here for all about cake strips. They're amazing. They give you nice flat layers on your cake by helping the outside bake slower, so you get a flat layer with nice fluffy edges. It's perfect. We're starting off with our vanilla batter, dry into the wet, and then give it a nice whisk. Nice and smooth. This smells so good. Get that in there. This recipe makes just enough batter for those 3 6-inch layers, so don't waste any, and also don't snack on it. Now for the strawberry mixture. Dry into the wet once again. Right, let's add that cake batter in there. If you didn't want to use any food coloring, but you still want a pink look, you could have added the juice of a couple raspberries and it would have been pretty pink. I would also have used a little bit less of the wet mixture in that case because you don't want this to be too watery. For the chocolate layer, I'm not forgetting to sift in the dry ingredients since that cocoa had lumps. Adding in just a splash of milk because that was a lot of cocoa powder and it's a bit dry. Okay, add the mixture into your prepared pan. These are going to go into the oven at 350 Fahrenheit for maybe about half an hour, but watch them carefully. They're all different recipes basically, so they're going to bake a little bit differently. Keep an eye on them. You'll know they're done when the centers are set and the edges are pulling away from the pan. Okay, I'm going to warn you, this decoration scheme uses a lot of buttercream, but you don't have to use this decoration scheme. You could give it a smooth coat, you could do a naked cake, it could be anything you like, and there's a lot of differences. Some people love frosting and some people say too much, so it's up to you. But we're gonna start off with 1 cup of unsalted room temperature butter in our standing mixer fitted with a paddle attachment. The other 3 sticks are in there, and now we're gonna cream that butter on low. Make sure that mixer's plugged in. Okay, so my butter is creamed. I'm gonna start adding in that sugar, and just by the by, what we're gonna do is make a big batch, and then just like the cake batter, separate it out and do 1 vanilla, 1 strawberry, 1 chocolate, and we're gonna have a good time. Don't try and add all the sugar in at once. Do little batches, like that much. Otherwise, it'll be very, very messy instead of very messy. See, now it's only very messy. First batch in there. I'm gonna add in a splash of milk right now. Now, back to more sugar. All right, so I ended up adding only 3 pounds of sugar, and this is a very dry buttercream right now, but that's fine because I can control the amount of moisture that goes into each individual batch because the strawberry is gonna have some liquid, the vanilla will have some liquid, and the chocolate we'll be adding in cocoa powder and a little bit of milk, so that'll add some liquid in as well, just so you know. Let's separate this out into 3 equal-ish batches. Don't worry about it being exact. Okay, starting off with my chocolate layer, let's see how these all came out. Smells really good. If you're ever worried about layers coming out of a pan right, give it a shake, and it helps. Shake it around like this. All your frustrations, and then out. The strawberry layer baked for about 10 minutes longer, just so you know. The other 2 were like half an hour, 35 minutes. This was like 40 plus minutes because that strawberry preserve just really slows the baking down. Just so you know. If you put them all in for the same, this will be underbaked every time. I've made that mistake before. All right, we're gonna set these beautiful, flat, even layers aside to cool while we finish off our buttercream. For the vanilla batch, I'm adding in a healthy splash of vanilla. Also gonna add a splash of milk in. and mix on low. For the strawberry, I'm adding in another tablespoon or so of that delicious strawberry jam along with a good squeeze of lemon juice. Make sure you sift out any of those seeds. Give it a mix and add in 1 drop of soft pink food coloring. For the chocolate batch, I'm sifting in 1/4 cup of cocoa powder and we're gonna give it a nice mix. Make sure you add in a couple drops of milk if it's looking a little dry. Now we're gonna transfer all of our buttercreams to separate piping bags and I'm just gonna snip the tip off of them. If you have 3 identical large round tips, feel free to use those. They'll give you a perfect everything, but snipping the tip off is totally fine. Okay, now it's time to assemble this cake. Make sure your cake layers are totally cool. You don't want this to melt. And I will tell you ahead of time, you're gonna need to refrigerate this before you do the final coat. So after crumb coating, refrigerate. Starting off with a ring of chocolate, switch to strawberry, then a little dollop in the middle to finish things off. Next, we're gonna add on our strawberry layer. So fluffy. I don't know if you can see this, but this is a very tender and I know delicious cake. The last layer on top. Now, I wanna show you how moist this cake is. Look at this. Very bouncy. This is not like a brick. Okay, I'm gonna give this a really light crumb coat and then toss it into the fridge to cool. If your cake is really, really tender, you can always kind of chill them for a bit so they're harder before you do this crumb coating because this is a very tender cake. All right, let's smooth the top with your offset spatula. And this is ready to go into the fridge to chill. Now it's time for the petals, and this is so easy. Just try and go in a straight line up and choose an order. To actually make the petal, you're going to press and then swipe to the left, just like that dating app. You could also use a knife to press the edge down, but that's totally not needed. Just push, swipe to the left, and while you're swiping, you're pressing. To decorate the top, you're repeating the exact same process. Nothing has changed. Try and go on the first row so that you're having that diagonal continued, but it's gonna break down as you get smaller, so just fill it in. So let me just tell you that this cake recipe was like an oldie but a goodie that I never made a YouTube video for, and I'm going to be on this TV show tomorrow, so they requested this Neapolitan cake recipe, and I took advantage of having to make this extra cake, which I've already filmed, to make a YouTube video for you. So I will not be eating this on camera for you. I'll be eating it on camera tomorrow. But trust me, it tastes delicious. It's actually really cool to use one cake recipe and then flavor vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate, and each layer came out really nice. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe. Hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe.